So my journey into Web3 space actually stems from my passion for technology and entrepreneurship. I think if you take Sri Lanka as an example, I think the government bodies are cautious, but they're also curious. Funding is important, but at the same time, I think not just funding, I feel like strategic partnerships are equally important.
Welcome everyone to this second episode of Beyond the Pitch, sponsored by Token Allies. My name is Alex Pestchanker, and today is my very honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed guest, Kavinda Kariyapperuma. Kavinda is an early adopter of blockchain technology and the founder and CEO of Coin Ceylon, the first blockchain innovations company in Sri Lanka. He is recognized as a pioneer in introducing Cardano first initiatives in South Asia and including establishing the region's first Intersect Hub, where he also functions as board of director of this MBO in Cardano. Kavinda brings extensive experience in blockchain technologies, decentralized governance, and business development. His career spans in building ventures and consulting across diverse industries, and with a commitment to transformative growth, education, and fostering innovation, he positioned himself at the forefront of advancing global blockchain adoption and shaping the future of decentralized economy. Kavinda, my friend, it's my pleasure. Very welcome to be here. How are you?
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. And thanks so much for the wonderful introduction as well. And thank you so much for hosting me today.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So let's jump right into it. I would like to know you better and your journey. Can you share a little bit about your personal journey and what led you to become an entrepreneur in this Web3 space?
So my journey into Web3 space actually stems from my passion for technology and entrepreneurship. I've always believed in the power of technology to solve problems, especially in emerging markets like Sri Lanka. So growing up, I saw so many systems, whether financial or could be educational or governance, they weren't inclusive or efficient. So it was leaving behind a lot of people underserved. So when I discovered blockchain, it was back in 2012. It wasn't the hype around the cryptocurrencies that really drew me to it. It was the idea of decentralization, how we could create systems that were transparent, inclusive, and also operated without the need of a central authority. So I realized this technology could evolve into real world issues like financial exclusion, could solve issues like financial exclusion, and also the lack of transparency, even in the governance sectors, and also the inefficiencies of that. So that's when I really decided to dive into Web3 fully.
Wow, amazing journey. 2012, I happened.
Correct.
It was like 13 years almost. How do you think is going now, looking backwards?
Well, it's changed a lot. I would say, like, I've had my moments where, I've seen pretty much most of the cycles change and how people have changed over the years, how products have changed how the industry have changed over the years. So for me, there was like moments where when I really realized that blockchain just wasn't about one thing, because a lot of the people, most of the time, just think it's just about cryptocurrencies. So for me, that was my moment where I was like, where I completely awoke as a person, because for me, it was about creating systems of trust and transparency and also getting more people to be included. So that's when I really knew that this was not a trend like everything else that's been coming over the years. I knew that this was going to be a transformative tool for the future. So that kind of showed me that blockchain wasn't just about trading assets. Yes, you can trade assets, but it wasn't just about that. For me, it was more about the empowerment and solving fundamental problems that was in societies.
And what do you think it is that fundamental problem, especially focused in Sri Lanka, that makes you found Coin Ceylon?
So in Sri Lanka, I saw two major issues if I would sum it down to. Mainly, it was the lack of awareness about blockchain technology's potential and also the lack of infrastructure to adopt it. So both the private sector as well as the private public sector as well, both sectors, they were mostly focused on, I would say, traditional systems. So they were leaving very little room for innovation. For example, if you take industries like agriculture, tourism, even the governance sector, had so much potential to benefit immensely from blockchain technologies, right? So there wasn't enough knowledge to drive to explore this in this region. So Coin Ceylon was born there. Coin Ceylon was created to bridge that gap. So myself, along with a few other like-minded individuals, because we've been in this space for quite some time, we wanted to make sure that we started it off with the focus on education as well as consulting and community building to show that blockchain can actually address local challenges as well as global ones. So our work with Coincidon spans across pretty much quite a different few areas like stake pools to NFTs to blockchain research to creatives to events to education and even hosting forums of bringing people together and things like that. So that's where Coin Ceylon was born.
Why do you think this is key or important for Sri Lanka and the world?
In terms of why we choose education as the foundation of everything we do, is because we believe that without understanding, there's a lot of hesitation in people and also bad viewpoints and also skepticism as well. Because especially in public institutions, I think people still view blockchain more or less something like a buzzword or something that is only related to cryptocurrencies alone. I think it's changing now in 2025. However, in emerging markets like Sri Lanka too, I think that stigma still exists. So I think through education, we break down these misconceptions and we show that blockchain can solve real world problems. For example, when we work with private companies, we sort of help them see how blockchain can improve things like their supply chain transparency or even reduce fraud. So with public institutions, we focus on in terms of governance and also decentralized things like decentralized identity solutions. And in education, also that's important. So that actually creates like a layer of trust and also open doors for adoption. So that has been the core value proposition there.
It's amazing that we are so aligned in that. I always say that technology will never can be uninvented, you know. So the disruption
100%.
here, and you mentioned education as a key factor for letting other people understand this disruption and be prepared for that. And I think that is so much important for the future that we are building because if not, technology can be very overwhelmed. You know, it is freaking a lot of people out. It gives you know, a lot of fears coming in, and that's why we see all these reactions and you know, trying to understand that this is the enemy, where this is just an amazing technology that has a lot of opportunities to make us life better. And getting back to that, in your home country in Sri Lanka, what are the challenges that you were facing, or the most important ones that you think you have in order to realize this purpose?
I think one of the main challenges we faced when it came to Sri Lanka, I would think that was the stigma, the social stigma. How did we overcome that? Because, like I mentioned earlier, because for us, the hardest part was trying to explain to people to try and understand that this world of Web3 or blockchain technologies has been focused mainly on a subject that is too complex or only for tech savvy individuals. So that stigma was one of the biggest misconceptions that we were faced with trying to overcome. Many people still believe that you need to be a developer to benefit from blockchain, which simply was not true. And also, a lot of the people, when it comes to the language barriers, also kind of thought that you need to be well versed in English to be just understanding these things. So we wanted to break that stigma. So we've had workshops where students entered thinking blockchain was all about cryptocurrencies. By the end of the workshops, they were kind of brainstorming along themselves to kind of find out ways like, hey, how do we use stuff like NFTs for cultural preservation or tourism sector or exploring something related to decentralized finance or even microloans, things like that. So that I think one of the main unique challenges that we faced was that. And also the way we countered that was through having education initiatives, because I think education is number one key to demystify these technologies that sort of empower people to think creatively about their applications.
We both come from non-mainstream countries, let's say it that way. Yeah, and we understand the challenges, the unique challenges that we have locally. And I think you hit a nail there when you mention language. And I think language has two sides. One is the local language, translate everything into something that people can really understand and not being afraid of not understanding because they don't speak English. And on the other side is the nerd language, let's put it that way, that we speak very, strange. We speak in a language that few people, even the English speakers or our local language speakers, is difficult to understand. And I think education has that mission, to translate not only from the English to the local language, but also to the common language. Explain things in a simple terms, like we are 5 year old, and that will really help us to lower the barriers for their attention, their interest, and their engagement to realize the opportunities that they have here. You probably engage a lot with public institutions and regulators, and around the world, there's a lot of news about, regulating these technologies. What is the current mindset in Sri Lanka about regulating, or what the public sector thinks about this?
It's a very good question. I mean, I would say government bodies, much like Sri Lanka and perhaps also from Argentina aspect as well, maybe a little bit more advanced there in terms of blockchain technologies. But I think if you take Sri Lanka as an example, I think the government bodies are cautious, but they're also curious, very curious. So our approach has been to start small with pilot projects that showcase the tangible benefits for the government sector too. For example, we've discussed how blockchains could improve transparency in terms of public procurement, stuff like that, and also make education credentials more secure. So things like that. Because we work with a lot of universities here in Sri Lanka as well. We recently partnered with one of the largest government universities at the same time. So the key has been for us to focus on solving specific problems using pilot projects that showcases real life use cases for blockchain rather than overwhelming them with, like you said, technical jargon, because most of them might not come from technical backgrounds. So they might not really understand with the moment you go and pitch them Web3 or blockchain, they'll just think, oh, some new technology is coming to take over everything else. So when we approach them, we always make sure that we speak to them in a humane language, whereas they understand that this isn't some new technology that's coming to take over things, but it's a technology that is going to evolve the existing legacy systems. So with more efficiency, more transparency within reason, and more accountability, where they will be able to understand the benefits more easily. So that way, I feel like they have been more open to exploring more broader applications of these technologies. So I think that has been one of the key areas how we've been able to talk to the government sector here.
That's amazing. Congratulations on a great purpose and mission that you are doing for so many time, and helping Sri Lanka and the region, to get gears up for this amazing disruption that we are living. This is a business-oriented show, and we would like to understand better both the personal level of the entrepreneurs and getting to know you better. We are doing that right now, but also on the business side, because I think this ecosystem has a kind of a reluctance, to speak about real business fundamentals. And also you see a lot of new companies that are, just start up, and then from 0 to 100 in a day, and then they disappear. So for me, it's very important to understand about business fundamentals of the other startups that are doing great job, such as you. What do you think, or how do you explain the business model of Coin Ceylon? Because you work with communities, you work with education. Those are very hard, topics to monetize. And how you sustain Coin Ceylon and how you see that model going forward?
Yeah, I think you hit the right point there. This is more or less a very long game because, like you said, if you have been in the space for quite some time, you sort of have seen high rises and fast falls of companies and even individuals of how things are being done. And it's one of the reasons why CoinCeylon started in Sri Lanka, because most of the companies or most of the firms, institutions that were engaging in these type of technologies, unfortunately, happened to be conducting a lot of malicious affairs, I would say, things that could actually scam people into not understanding exactly what blockchain technologies could do, but more or less pitch it as something that you can make a quick buck. And that is one thing we want to change. And that's one of the reasons why we came into the space with that in mind. So I think when you ask us about the revenue model, so our revenue mainly, primarily comes from consulting services, where we design and implement blockchain solutions for organizations. So due to privacy reasons, I might not be able to go into too many specifics, but our focus on creating value while ensuring accessibility for all of these firms, be it a Web2 firm, be it a legacy firm, who is curious on learning these blockchain technologies, how can they implement it onto their business model? How can that help them get better revenue? So those are the things that we have been focusing mainly on. In terms of, for example, while we have like advanced training sessions and consulting projects which are monetized, many of our workshops and community meetups and things like that have been free. Why? Because we wanted to make sure that that knowledge is accessible to everybody. Because what we think is, because it's such a new type of technology people are still trying to get a hold of, there's a lot of stigma where people don't want to get into it or don't want to even associate a company that might be engaging in blockchain related services. So when you're getting into the field, especially in Sri Lanka, what we have done is we have listened and we have figured out their pain problems. Could be a very small area of focus. It could be something like tracking something that they want to keep on a public ledger, that they actually keep it on a physical record right now, which does not involve too many things that they need to do, but they will be able to keep it. In terms of the governance sector, where we now have been talking with universities and trying to build partnerships with them to build things, because even in the governance sector, when the governments change, they usually talk a lot about anti-corruption mechanisms. So now that opportunity has come where people are looking into it, even in the governance sector, where they're looking into products and services that these smaller startups and companies are using. If they can build it in a larger scale, that they can include it onto the governance sector. So I think for us, it has been a reputational game. Whereas where you build it, you build your reputation over a period of time, and you do a lot of things in terms of getting the community together. Why I said it was important is because these consultant services that you offer, it could be in terms of brand building, it could be in terms of getting something that they already have, how can they improve it? So these are the kind of things that we have focused mainly on when it comes to building tools and services for our clients.
It's very interesting what you mentioned. My passion is exponential technologies, and I normally teach about that. And several of the characteristics that you mentioned belongs to what is called an exponential organization, which is instead of having customers, you have fans and you create ecosystems and communities. But it is also a very difficult task to do because you have, as you said, a revenue stream, which is consulting services, which takes a lot of time because you sell hours basically. And then you, at the same time, has to build strong communities, and most of them are for free or at least, break even. How you balance those?
In terms of, if I would say, because it involves building a lot of partnerships, like you said, I think expanding partnerships, not just locally, but internationally, that has also helped quite a lot. Locally, we are working with smaller sets of companies which are still getting into the blockchain space, but they are more inclined to learn and more inclined to get smaller services where they can implement not full implementations of a blockchain ecosystem into their workflow, but certain little things. It could be supply chain management, where you can take a small part of it, which we have done quite a bit. And also, there have been places where they would have wanted to create something like NFTs. Even when it comes to event companies, now they're getting into creating things like ticketing systems or just scanning their tickets onto the chain. So they are exploring these things, and it's fast-paced moving. So what we've realized is rather than getting us to build every single thing on chain where we will be overwhelmed with the kind of things you're going to get. What we've realized is we work with international partners in countries like Japan and also now in Africa as well. So where we're trying to get them to be linked up, where all of these products and services are already being built by similar companies, which actually offer these to their ecosystems. But why not connect them as a partner to a real world business organization? So I think these collaborations with organizations, even like ecosystems like Cardano and also Intersect, that has really helped us align with the best practices of the globe, where the community is together, where people from different walks of life, when it comes to people from different business networks, it could be a day job, but they have that knowledge where they have been building things too. So technically, you don't necessarily need to build everything from scratch. So I believe there's a value proposition that not a lot of people have understood, that community building also plays a very huge key role. Clearly, with us, it has played a really key role in terms of our growth strategy. So I think by empowering individuals to engage with blockchain, we have been creating that on the grass level movement that actually has helped adoption slowly, but it's happening in Sri Lanka. So that's the kind of walkway that we are currently in.
You talk about partnerships and international partnerships. That is very interesting. How you see the future in 3 to 5 years? How you see Coin Ceylon scaling through these partnerships and some sort of knowledge package knowledge selling for them to deliver locally, or you are thinking about setting offices in other countries or regions? What your ideas there?
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. So in the next 3 to 5 years, when it comes to Coin Ceylon, I personally envision Coin Ceylon becoming a driving force for the blockchain adoption in Sri Lanka and also in the region. Because creating tangible economic and social benefits for people has been something that has been lacking in this region. So I think blockchain can bring this transparency act into industries like agriculture, finance, supply chain, and also enable accountability in terms of governance systems. It's going to take some time, but I feel like that is where it's going to go. In terms of economic perspective, I see that blockchain will be creating new job opportunities, where especially for developers and entrepreneurs, especially in countries like Sri Lanka, while empowering small businesses with tools to operate more efficiently. And on a different level, we envision Coincelon to be a hub that will be able to deliver this in terms of education to try and get developer hubs set up, where even in the region, if you want to develop things, you can actually connect with these developers here too. And we also want to inspire more in like innovators to use blockchain to use solve real life problems by showing that solutions are scalable and impactful. You see that already happening in countries like Japan and also in Vietnam. So we want Sri Lanka to be a leader in the South Asian blockchain ecosystem. But going forward to other countries, we want to be in a state where we connect with other tech hubs, institutions, other companies, and also government levels, where we will be able to put Sri Lanka on the global map. At the same time, we should be able to offer solutions which are given locally at the time. If we can use these local solutions and cater them to other countries around the world, also to fit their needs and actually listen to what they want done, that is where we want to position Coincelon as a company, but not only a company, but it because we have this ethos where we say empowering global change. because this, we believe, companies in the blockchain space are change makers. So ideally, how we want to see ourselves in next 3 to 5 years is become a true change maker in the space.
It is very interesting that you were talking about that. I was thinking about, the architecture of the blockchains, these powerful nodes, totally decentralized, autonomous, each one doing whatever they want, but with the protocol, that bring us all together.
Yeah.
And I was reflecting on what you were talking about, kind of the same thing. Companies should be adapting, and we should be creating this collaborative protocol for businesses so we can really impact the world at scale without a central authority, with each one with its own capabilities and learnings and opportunities. And then through that protocol, to be able to collaborate and make this ecosystem better. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think you're right, because it's like it kind of works as a knock-on effect, right? So if you do this here, and if you do this in one place, you can actually get it, you can actually get it replicated in other places too. So I think it's kind of like a um, inspiration for a new generation of entrepreneurs and developers who actually see blockchain more than just a technology. So as long as people start seeing this more or less like a platform for innovation and empowerment, I think creating ecosystems where blockchain can actually drive real change in terms of real value generation for people. It couldn't, maybe it might not be in terms of monetary value, but it could also, we should also be thinking about the social value aspect of it. So not just financial inclusion, but I feel like influencing transparent policies, even for the governance sector. That is something that I think we should really look into, because I feel like this kind of has like a ripple effect, because more so when you get more people to be educated on this, get involved in this, automatically you start building a more tech savvy workforce. And also you also get more better policies driven by not just ideas, but also data as well. So it's going to be data driven policies. So I feel like altogether, when you put all of these things together, it sort of creates like a much more stronger and an inclusive economy as well.
Do you think for scaling at this pace or this scale, um, what do you think we need? Because there's a lot of talking about, funding recently in our space in Cardano. Uh, do you think there is enough funding, and is it in the proper form for these type of companies to growth and to thrive?
Yeah, I think funding is important, but at the same time, I think not just funding. I feel like strategic partnerships are equally important, because there is certain ways that these some of these companies have been built around the world. So I have seen a lot of the companies that suddenly get funded without actually having their direction for the next 3 to 5 year plan, or where they actually want to go, or exactly what they want to do in the long run. If they get funded, because I mean, let's face it, this space has an enormous amount of wealth in it, and sometimes it's unimaginable too. So sometimes when suddenly a startup comes and then they are starting to do something, they're building a product or something like that, and suddenly you get funding coming in. But if they don't really know exactly where they want to take that product or where they want to take that company, that kind of, you lose your focus in the middle. So that, I think we have to be really careful with that. But definitely it's a challenge, especially this part of the world, where you don't have a lot of wealth generation in terms of countries like even Sri Lanka. When in this space, you don't get that. So that's a big challenge that you face. But at the same time, I think if you get these companies to strategically partner with other companies or even hubs in other countries that replicate similar successes, I think that could actually create a much more inclusive and also much more, I would say, a much more productive environment. Because once you connect these companies, not just through funding, but also through fundamentals, I think we can really help support each other to grow at a different level. Because you will know, if you have this set network of companies that are related, all your strategically partnered with, you will know exactly how you can grow. Like I said, sometimes you might be able to support the other companies too. So at the same time, if you have built that and then you get the funding in, then I feel like you can actually utilize it a lot better.
That's the most fundamental value of collaboration, of finding the
Correct.
complementaries between different perspectives and different situations and realities and capabilities. And then you get suddenly something much better than the sum of the parts. So yeah, totally agree with that. We mentioned briefly Cardano, and I will not be doing my job and following my heart if I don't ask that. You choose Cardano for your main blockchain space or ecosystem. Why? Why do you think Cardano is better than other chains, or maybe what are the differentials if maybe we don't want to compare?
Personally, so initially when I started out, this is my personal take on this. When I started off on the blockchain space back in 2012, I was frankly involved in a lot of in terms of getting to know a lot of research, a lot of the cryptocurrencies and a lot of the ecosystems that were popping out at that time. Right after was quite a lot. Most of them don't exist anymore. So you saw those things coming up, going down, coming up, going down. Or suddenly, all of a sudden, it gets a huge level of PR or media, and then suddenly they just disappear. So I firsthand saw this. And what attracted me to Cardano was their roadmap and how they approach the problem. They approached the problem with solutions that were peer review research. And that was the main thing that really attracted to me, that attracted me to it personally. So since the time of Cardano's launch, I've been following it throughout and how they've been building their roadmap, how each and every single stepping stone was kept, and what went wrong along the way and what went right. Something that I really admired when it came to Cardano was the fact that they never gave in or they never compromised on the quality of the things that were coming out from the ecosystem. Even though it took certain time period above the roadmap time period they would have liked to hit, they never compromised at any point. And perhaps I might be biased when I say this. I did not see this happening on any other ecosystem that I have really looked at. And that was one of the main things that really aligned with the ethos of myself and also Coin Ceylon, where we looked at things where, like, if you do it, you must do it right or you don't do it at all. So that was the reason that we actually went into it, because for me personally, Cardano's technology, the tech that backs Cardano is phenomenal. And if you're coming in from a tech background, and if you look at the stack and you see the kind of work that has been done in the Cardano ecosystem, you get mesmerized the amount of work that has been carried out. And with that, moving a little bit further out, the true decentralization, I saw it happening there. And I was personally very, very, very interested in the Voltaire era because of the fact that it was coming on to the governance sector. And personally, I myself got involved with Intersect as well. Because of this, I personally didn't want to, but I was asked by a lot of people because I've been in the space for quite some time, but I've been having a very low profile. But because of the fact that all of these roadmaps and every single step of the way, we've been there, we've seen everything. And we thought if we don't contribute to that aspect now, especially when it comes to the governance aspect of it, we are missing out, because this is a type of technology or an ecosystem that I feel like it's going to grow beyond what people realize it right now. People are now looking at decentralized governance, which is coming on Cardano. And people think that, oh, it's just for governance, where you would just go on, vote on governance actions based on just Cardano, and then, you get the technical upgrades done and the budgets and things like that. But I see a vision far much, much, much further out, a, a lot more broader, even for Cardano. I believe it's going to become something much more bigger than what people realize, where even this system that's been built, the decentralized mechanism for governance that's being currently built, for voting mechanisms, I feel like this will go beyond just governance actions. This has a lot more broader use case, where it might be something that people use day-to-day basis. It could be used for other things too. And frankly, we are also getting into building some really interesting governance tools with Coin Ceylon too, which you will get to hear about it in the coming months ahead. But because of this passion and the amount of actual work, the human hours that went into this, and the fact that at no point the community was driven by pure, I would say, pure urgency to make money or to find the next big gain. I don't think anybody in there truly who's been there passionately. I've not seen that anywhere else. I've only seen it in Cardano. And that community is something that I really treasure. And I think that's one of the biggest things that Cardano has. It's one of their biggest assets. It's the community, it's the people. So I feel like this is actually the people's chain. So I feel like that's where it's leading. And that's why we decided to be in it. I myself decided to be in it.
I always feel that technology will be just an empty shell if it's not wherefore it has a purpose, to serve humanity, to thrive and to evolve. And I think in Cardano, that point is being reached, from a very, as you said, strong and very well built technology. Now people are focusing in building the human protocol, will allow, people from everywhere in the world with many backgrounds and very different, realities to generate some compromises and then to decide on things that are important for the future and what they are doing and why they are here. So it's a very interesting experiment, I think, and as you said, I think is greater than the original purpose of a technology, and is very impactful in terms of human perspective, and I'm really looking forward for how this experiment start to roll out. Tomorrow we are having, the first human created constitution enacted in the blockchain, and it's all sort of different bodies of government to be able to govern for ourselves. So we'll see. Very interesting. I would like to at the final question to ask you about your personal experience. You have a lot of years in entrepreneurship and doing different stuff. What are your lessons learned? What you will tell to other people that are uh, creating startups or doing businesses in the space or want to? What you will tell them?
I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the years, especially in this space, and also my other experiences as well, especially in this space, is the importance of patience and persistence. I think this is something a lot of people forget, and it's easy to forget. It's just that change does not happen overnight, especially when you're introducing a new technology like blockchain, where people are not used to. I think it takes time to build trust and also break down misconceptions and barriers that are there. So I think another key lesson I would say is the value of listening, whether it's feedback, criticism, constructive criticism, even from someone like a workshop attendee or even a partner organization. Like what they don't understand, I feel like if they come to you, you must listen. These insights you gain from truly listening, I think that's what can really help you refine your entire approach and create solution that actually resonates with the person. So I think for anybody starting a similar initiative or a company, I think this does not just apply to blockchain. I think any company that has a people-centric approach where you actually do engage with people at some level, I think my advice would be to focus on listening, and also in terms of things you want to do. If you're getting into a space where new technology is involved, I think you must focus on education first, because people will not adopt what they don't understand, and they often fear what they don't understand. So I feel like you should start small, build trust, and scale gradually. And most importantly, stay very, very true to your mission. So I think that's my take on that.
The other day, somebody told me, a very esteemed friend of mine, you are trying to solve a problem that I don't have. So it's
Yeah.
a very interesting reflection. As you said, you have to listen, you have to understand what the other people need. And that's why we have 2 ears and one mouth, to listen double at least of what you speak. So finally, for Coin Ceylon, if somebody wants to approach, what type of partnerships are you looking for? What type of collaborations that you need or you want?
So I think there are many ways to support or even collaborate with Coin Ceylon. So say if you're an individual or if you want to join some of the stuff that we do, it could be events, it could be workshops or anything that we are building. Like if you want to engage with our community members or forums or even for organizations, we do offer a lot of consulting services, be it brand building to finding out information on how you can do things or even research. So we do help a lot of the people to explore blockchain solutions that are tailored to your needs. Like what you just suggested, we will not try to solve a problem that you do not have. So I think collaboration can actually take a lot of the forms, whether it's partnering up, like I said, on research projects, or even co-hosting an event, or even working together, building strategic partnerships in the region, or even helping to localize content for broad accessibility. We are always looking for passionate people who actually want to contribute in the blockchain space. So even if it's through development or education or governance or anything that you're passionate about, if you want to learn more, or if you want to partner up and find out what kind of synergies that we can build in terms of an organization, we are more than happy and we welcome you to get in touch with us as well. And we'd be more than happy to explore together.
Amazing. We are going to post all the links for contacts for Coin Ceylon and Kavinda here, so you are more than free to use them to reach out. And sadly, the time has come up, but I really enjoyed this interview, Kavinda. Thanks so much for being here. You are an outstanding community member and very, as you said, driven by your purposes that you can tell when you speak. So thanks so much for sharing your more personal face and then for all these insights that you help us learn about Ceylon, Coin Ceylon, about Sri Lanka, about yourself. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Alex.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Pitch. We hope you enjoy learning about our guest journey and the real world value they are bringing in the Web3 space.
Before we go, we would like to share a little bit about Tokenalize. Tokenalize is the first decentralized VC on Cardano. We are on a mission to democratize investments and build upon the success of traditional venture capital. Only this time, we are focusing on disintermediation, decentralization, and complete transparency.
By putting power in the hands of our investors, we are creating a more inclusive environment where individuals can make their own decisions. And for the companies we invest in, it means having a partner totally aligned with their growth and impact objectives.
We invite you to follow our journey with Tokenalize. And if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and share this episode with your network. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and you can always reach us directly for questions or collaborations.
Thank you again for watching Beyond the Pitch. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we will continue exploring the most exciting stories in blockchain, AI, and beyond. See you soon.